All right, we are back with this ever-growing and continuing, like the ever-ready bunny, Armageddon, part 13. So evil, we know, started in Satana, India, where the word Satan originated around 7,000 years ago. They were chased out by a righteous army. The Jews' forefathers, so they aren't the Jews yet, but these people, these Satanists living in Satana, are the forefathers of the Jews, and they left behind a city that paled Sodom and Gomorrah into insignificance. Moving westward, wherever they went, they carried on settling in the area of the Dead Sea, becoming the 5 cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, where every form of abomination they could imagine continued. So in the lead up to World War II, Berlin had become the revived Sodom in Europe. Every abomination was available. Hitler cleaned it all out. He set up Germany for the families. A house was given married couples a loan to be paid at no interest. However, with each child, the debt to the government for the house was reduced by a quarter. So 4 children, and then the house was free. This is why Hitler has been constantly attacked as being evil. The man was a saint. Job is the oldest book of the Bible. In it, the word Satan is mentioned, an obvious reference to the ancient city in India, where the word is derived from, Satana, India. The book of Genesis is around the mythic 1400 BC setting when the story of Moses was invented. He is reported to have lived 120 years. But as it is a myth, the authors made reference to an assumed oldest lifespan of 120 years. The book of Job is ancient, around 2300 BC, from the same area where the idea of Moses originated in Assyria, which is Syria today, from the recorded cuneiform dated confirming Sargon of Akkad was an ancient Mesopotamian ruler who reigned approximately between the years of 2334 to 2279 BC, and that's the same time frame that Job was written. Sargon was one of the earliest of the world's great empire builders, conquering all of southern Mesopotamia, as well as parts of Syria, Anatolia, and Elam, western Iran, Samaria. Cuneiform dates to 3400 BC. The length of lifespan was still long. Job lived 140 years after the main events of the flood, and Job was already an old man. Reading from Job 42:16, when 42:16 in the Hebrew concordance is Mazzaroth, the 12 signs of the zodiac. In Greek it means carried away of the flood, and is the width of Mars in miles. Mars is 42:16 miles wide. So the cuneiform writing system is also not an alphabet, and it doesn't have letters. Instead, it used between 600 and 1,000 characters to write words or parts of them, or syllables. The 2 main languages written in cuneiform are Sumerian and Akkadian from ancient Iraq, although more than a dozen others are recorded. This means we could use it equally well today to spell Chinese, Hungarian, or English. So adding 3400 to 2017, we're back to 5417 years. So this is from now backwards 5,417 years. Yet, in the Genesis story, written by the people of Satana, as they spread west from India, the Genesis Noah story tells how Noah brought with him sacrifices of blood, which he is alleged to have carried out as an order of priority to sacrifice to God. So the Genesis story, too, is satanic, to say the least. Jesus condemned animal sacrifice and the laws of Moses. God is love, and the idea that Noah took with him animals for sacrifice, and then the first thing that he did was build an altar and then kill these poor creatures, is totally satanic. It is not of God, capital G. Reading Genesis 8:20, and Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. So this is total insanity. Cleans the beasts and cleans the fowls, and that's a lot of blood. So who does it sound like? It sounds like Satan, not the God of Jesus, the Lord, who is back today. He condemned it then, condemns it now, and the reason for the cross was to fulfill the insanity of the Moses laws, to demonstrate how absolutely insane they are. Not to be continued, but put an end to them. You can't kill God. That was the resurrection, and also to release the soul held within the blood so that Yah could be reborn to the earth, because that's the only way onto the earth. It's through the womb. The womb in a room. The name Satana derived from Satyayani, one of the minor Upanishads of the Muktika canon. So depending on what culture you study, India appears to be pre-flood. Sri Krishna lived 125 years, 8 months and 7 days lifespan, born on January 11th, 7,000 years ago. However, another ancient India legend faces an eyebrow-raising time frame. And you can read that there, the meaning of it, quoting, having enjoying the kingship for 10,000 years, Rama performed 100 horse sacrifices, in which good horses were sacrificed and numerous gifts bestowed. So here we are, back to blood sacrifices to a satanic god. A scholar explaining creation when reading the Indian story said, quote, God has no beginning and no end because God is unimaginable. The beginning and the end must be also unimaginable for an unimaginable item. The Creator cannot be any item of the creation. Yah says, I wonder if he had read my explanation. He is correct. From a scientific observation, I have repeatedly said the fusion rate of the sun converts 657 million tonnes of hydrogen, so this is per second, to 652.5 million tonnes of helium per second. The 4.5 million tonnes is heat and light. 45 in the Hebrew Concordance is El, God is my Father. 657 times the word Lord is found within the 1611 King James Bible. Many of you have read this before about the solar output. The scale at which the sun produces energy is truly staggering. Each second, 657, the Lord number, million tonnes of hydrogen is converted to 652.5 million tonnes of helium. The missing mass of 4.5 million tonnes is converted to energy each second. That is equal to the mass of a line of automobiles over 12,000 miles long. Likewise, the number of proton-to-proton cycle reactions, concluding each second in the sun, is equally mind-boggling. Let's suppose that every person on Earth today has a 100-pound bag of fine sand. the number of grains of all that sand is still much less than the number of the proton-to-proton reactions ending their long cycles each second in the sun's core. Now it says that day after day for 27 years I have been compiling facts. After all, the truth will set you free. The heavenly realm is as close as being hit by a truck. You will be amazed at what happens as your soul looks down from the entrance into a tunnel of light. The dark matter of the universe is what holds the light within it. The galaxy dragonfly, 44, is 99.99% dark matter. Dark matter is what holds time within it. The dark matter itself is timeless. Where light pours out through into time, stars form. Our sun has at its centre a portal through which time begins to exist as nuclear fusion begins. Atoms cannot exist without time. An electron spins around a proton, hydrogen. Is it not a sign that the fusion rate of the sun is the same for all stars in every galaxy, converting hydrogen to helium at the Lord number, 657 verses in the New Testament containing the word Lord.
Jesus.
And the New Testament Lord is always referring to Jesus. The atomic number for hydrogen is 1.008. So 1008 in the Hebrew concordance is Beth-El, pronounced Beth-El, from 1004 and 410, meaning house of God. So we have the house of God pouring through from timeless dark matter from and into the house of God at a fusion rate of the Lord in the New Testament, or Jesus. All things were created through Jesus, the Son of heaven, God the Father. There are 26 elements manufactured by the fusion process in the Son. Adding the letters of God, their number value, 7 plus 15 plus 4 equals 26. And 26 in the Greek concordance is affection, love, goodwill. And in Hebrew it means, my Father is joy. And indeed he is. I said, and indeed he is. A joy filled with. Now iron is a chemical element with a symbol Fe. Fe adds up to 11. And the atomic number 26. Hello, so 11 we've got birthday, 11th of January, and the number 26, which is the gematria for God. It is a metal in the first transition series. It is by mass the most common element on Earth, forming much of Earth's outer and inner core. So its symbol is Fe, atomic number 26, melting point 1538 degrees Celsius, the electrons per shell 2, 8, 14 and 2, electron configuration 3d64s2, boiling point 2862 degrees Celsius, and then the atomic mass of 55.845. Now note that iron is melted from 1538 and it must exceed 2861 degrees Celsius and then boils at 2862 degrees Celsius. So the 2861, of course, is the displacement factor of the base of the altar to the Lord. And that number, 2861, means espousal, the marriage of Christ to the masses. And there's the full size of the base of the pyramid, 36,524.24 pyramid inches, each inch being a day, so that is 100 years. It's also the age of Enoch, when he was the time that he was taken away, 365 days. So it is less the displacement factor, which is 286.1 pyramid inches, leaves the reduced base 36,238.14 pyramid inches. So that's the actual size that the pyramid was reduced to and is today. But the number 3623 in the Hebrew Concordance is also espousal, but female, meaning mankind. So the melting point of 1538 is from 1556, meaning a skull, as round by implication, a head, in enumeration of persons. In other words, a head count. You know, we've got a consensus, this is the head count. 1538 in the Greek Concordance, however, is pretty much the same thing. It says each or every, any, both, each one, every man, one woman. So it's talking about everybody, it's talking about mankind. The difference between the 2862 boiling point and the 1538, the numbers between them is 1323, and it means in Hebrew, daughter, children, girl, daughter-in-law, granddaughter, female child, young women, daughters, plural, villagers as a description of character. In other words, the female soul of all mankind. That is why they can marry the Christ, who is the one and only alpha male soul on the planet. The Earth, on the other hand, is an iron planet, but with 88 naturally occurring elements. Add 4 more for the unstable elements, and we have 92, which in days is April the 2nd, 33 AD. That was the date of the trial of Jesus. There are 88 constellations. Mercury rotates around the sun in 88 days. It is an iron planet. Jesus in Greek gematria is 888. As for Satan, it invented Moses, the animal sacrifices, and it, Satan, being the Lord of Moses, is found within the books of Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Leviticus, a total of 1,404 verses. Yapping insane laws, demands death, killing, taking virgins after slaughtering all the men and boys and women who had slept with a man. That is, the enemies of Israel, etc. It is complete insanity. And why? Because the 1404 is Dracon.
Triple cannibals.
Yes.
Giants.
In other words, this is the giant. These are the dragons, the serpent, the dragons. This is what is yapping away. And it's from 1405. Now this is in the Greek Concordance, and it's 1404 leading to 1405 to the base of 1405 through the idea of capturing, that is to grasp, figuratively, entrap, take. And this is what the dragon has done. It has totally ensnared and entrapped all mankind, all Christianity in particular, because they believe that the yapping to Moses was the Father, the Lord, meaning Jesus himself. Hello? There is so much contrast between the Old Testament and the New Testament. How can that thing that's yapping away to Moses, an invention, be the God, the Father of Jesus, as he came to declare? And said, nobody's heard the Father, nobody's seen the Father. I have come to declare him. So you always ask, who was it that Moses, well, it was a myth, yapping to? Satan itself. Here we are in the heavens, 1504 from the Greek Concordance, Dracon, probably from an alternate form of dercoma, to look, a fabulous kind of serpent, a dragon. 1505 to the base of 1404 to grasp, entrap, take. Reading from Revelation 12:19, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Now it has all played out in heaven before the universe was created. So if there are any Christians listening for the first time, Satan deceives. It's not which might deceive or which will try to deceive the whole world. It says which deceiveth, meaning it's done, which deceiveth the whole world. So if you're a Christian watching all of this going, that's not my Jesus, well, you're right. He's not your Jesus, because your Jesus is the image of the beast and is all part of the problem. And you have been ensnared. And the Lord himself has come down to the earth again to set you free. Can you see the diagrams on the right there? In the heavens, Ursa Minor, Polaris, and YBS Europe, there's that number 286, which means Lamb. Draco Gamma, the red eye of the dragon down there at the bottom. 1404, dragon. It's the god of Moses, yapping away, the invented Moses. The Egyptian lord, lowercase. 1/3 of heaven is cast out. And you can see there that the altar to the Lord, the passage, pyramid passage, pointing out into space, points to the Lord, pole star, YBS 286. Here we go again. So yes, it's all played out in heaven before the universe was created. We see how the book of Revelation is making reference to pre-creation. Then Michael defeats the dragon. It wakes up, so we're now talking about the dragon wakes up on the earth in our reality, where the final victory was done emulating the heavenly prophecy of the cross and second coming of Christ. Then the dragon, the old serpent, even had Noah sacrificing animals in the script that everybody's trapped in. The earth religions are all demonic, created by Satan. The Moses myth on down to the dragon appearing to Paul. It was the devil himself on the road to Damascus, which creates a psyche in the minds of the deluded Christians, urging on by the dragon's media, internet, churches, sending money to the abomination in Israel to kill Palestinians. Many of the Palestinians are Christians. That doesn't matter. It's all to do with the dragon's Jesus they pray to. Establish the kingdom of the dragon on earth. Reading Revelation 12:13, and when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth a man-child. So at creation, it knew it had to kill Jesus first, then Christ, who was reborn in 1944. Revelation 12:16, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So what are we talking about here? Well, first of all, the woman is Daphne Golightly, and the earth opened her mouth. What does it mean? Well, this is Yah's measuring of the earth. The earth is the book, opened up to Yah through the measuring of it to reveal himself recorded within the creation. And so it is his measuring and using the numbers of his measure, revealing the truth to all mankind, that has swallowed up the flood of the bullshit that flows from the mouths of every priest, pastor, reverend, minister, evangelist, Jew on the planet. It is all part of the flood. Every pope, until Pope Benedict repented and humbled himself, this current idiot heading the Vatican, where today we're just reading about the orgies amongst gay men and drugs that has just, these last couple of days, been exposed by their own gendarmes. They're the people that we talked to at the front gate in 2013 after Benedict was locked away. This idiot running the show, Francis, is the Antichrist. He is the one responsible for the hell on earth that has continued since his election. Because he has held back the news that the Christ is on the earth. That's what makes him the Antichrist. He rejected Benedict's findings. He rejected it all. He became in opposition to the Christ on the earth. So then we continue, Revelation 12:17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war. Now listen very closely here when I explain this. And went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now I want to explain this to Christians out there. I know where you're coming from. You think that you are the remnant of her seed and have the testimony of Jesus and keep the... No, you're not. You're all part of the problem. You are of the beast. Who is the woman? It's Daphne Golightly, who gave birth to the Christ on January 11th, 1944. He was the last of her 3 children, so that makes him the remnant of her seed. He was the youngest, the smallest, the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God. What were the commandments of God? Well, that was the voice that spoke to the small boy, the small child that will lead them. He was 4.84 years old on the day he heard the voice of the Lord, which was his voice as an adult today, speaking to him, giving him commands that he obeyed. And that is the following the voice, climbing over the fence, going into the house next door, following the commands of the voice that was speaking to him, to find the small 2-year-old boy hiding behind the bathroom door with his mother lying on the floor that had been electrocuted by the vacuum cleaner that the stepfather of the Christ, an idiot called Wrong Way Reg, wired up just the week before.
No, I told him it was wrong.
And as a 4-year-old child, the Christ child told his stepfather he was doing it the wrong way.
And he said, shut up, big mouth, no.
Right. So, these were the commandments of God. And have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Why? Because he was Jesus. All grown up now, same soul. As Jesus, he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father and I have one. That's because it was the soul of the Father. His same soul today, all grown up into the maturity of the Father today, at that time known as the young buck called Jesus. He, and only he, has the testimony of Jesus because he was Jesus in the time of 33 AD. He lived 3 days at that time, cut off at the crucifixion, all to fulfill the insane laws of Moses, the God of Moses, Satan itself. So I explained to somebody through the email, it's like Yah has said, it's like a father who has a wife and family, and he goes off to war to fight the fight in order to protect his wife and family. And by the time he gets back from the war, the wife has installed another husband, and the children don't recognize their father. They are worshipping the other husband. That is what it's like in Christendom today, and Yah is pissed off, as you would expect him to be. That is why today he is the judge. He has judged the wicked in the Jews who call themselves Jews and are not Jews anyway. He's also judged the Christians of Paul, the Pauline Christians. This is why in Matthew 7:22-23, it's recorded quite well there. It's, Lord, Lord, in that day. It was Jesus speaking, saying, in that day many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, Have we not done all these wonderful works and prophesied in thy name, etc., etc., etc.? And he says, depart from me, for I never knew you. I don't know you. Ye workers of iniquity. These are the followers of Paul. You filled your minds with the scriptures, quoting Paul, this, Paul, that. He was an assassin and a murderer. He was a devil that Jesus warned about. You've been trapped and you have no hope. Because this is the end of the road. The end of days, the end of time is the end of the time for the soul that has been given up to 7 times to get it right, like the refiner's fire, refining silver. Every soul on the planet has been given up to 7 times to get it right. That's how patient God has been. The evil one, this is their 7th lifetime of accumulated evil. Each time got more evil. The good has been here probably the 2nd time, like Yah has and myself. This is our 2nd time, back at the time of the end, to wake you all up to know how you've been trapped. So the point is that unless you recognize that you have been deceived, and unless you humble yourself, like Pope Benedict did, you are not going to inherit the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God comes to the earth because God is on the earth. And he warned as Jesus, unless you become like a small child, you will not see, nor will you enter the kingdom of God. What is a small child? First of all, they recognise their father in a crowd. He left behind his image on the face of Turin, the blatantly obvious, for the pure in heart that he promised would see God. The pure in heart shall see God. How? Because it's my photograph on the shroud of Turin. That's what Pope said, oh my God, it's him. And a small child doesn't know anything. They haven't been corrupted by the bullshit of the world, the bullshit of their parents teaching, whatever religion or non-religion that they're into, or their wicked ways, or idiotic, insane thoughts, or manner of living, whatever. Just think sex, drugs, rock and roll. Not going to make it unless you repent. Not having anybody. And it's not about... Paul was not a repentant. That's a lie. He was a murderer and he was an assassin, and there was no forgiveness for the likes of Paul. So you've got all Christendom today depending upon the bullshit of Paul, thinking that they're going to make it by grace. It was the grace of God that's... No, it's by works. And maintaining your own salvation through works, through humility, and realising that your former life was complete snare. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, Christians so arrogant today. Oh, my Jesus died for me. No, he didn't. He died to get back here and set your grandchildren free from the likes of you. Do you think bombing Palestinian children, the abominations that have gone on in Palestine, has anything to do with Jesus or the God of Jesus? And you're thoroughly mistaken. Israel is an abomination. And the USA, the arm of Israel, the USA military is the beast rising out of the land. So that's it. Yah is the remnant of her seed, the only one who has kept the commandments of God, hearing the words of God spoken to him as a child, and only he has the testimony of Jesus Christ. There's not millions of you around the planet. Now, Yah says, finally, we have the 202nd solar eclipse and the start of the eclipse countdown from, so the 202nd solar eclipse was November the 14th, 2012, so counting from that one, the next one being 203, but 202 we're interested in Revelation 20 verse 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So Yah says it's not that hard, is it? The rejected capstone has become the head of the corner. Now, that is the altar to the Lord ends. The prophecy, the Bible in stone, which is the Great Pyramid, the altar to the Lord, it ends. There's no more time, in other words. from August 21st, 2017, because the moon is the chronograph, it is the clock, it is the counting down, it is time. So there's no more time. Oh, well, here it is. In the next slide, in Yah's words, I've had my little say, it breaks down to now. The Christian world is entirely satanic. The Jews, being the spiritual manifestation, has caused continuous wars throughout time. Righteousness rises up and chases it out, as happened in Russia with Putin. Even in Russia today, the Moses myth still dominates. At the height of World War II, I was conceived. The Satan's spirit had won. Christians were killing Christians. Hitler, Satan's greatest threat, was nearing defeat. Satan's generals, all Jews appearing to the public to be Christians. Churchill, Eisenhower, Roosevelt. With communism. When they talk about communism, you're talking about the Jews. They are not separate from one another. Taking over England and the USA. But prophecy was repeating itself. Satan, the dragon, was targeting my mother Daphne. But to its dismay, I was conceived and born precisely at a moment that solidified a focal point in space and time. The light of the world was reborn. But far worse than my lifetime as Jesus, when I was born on June 17, 2 BC, when I lived a life of opposition to Moses' laws, and then the defeat of Satan on April the 5th, 33 AD, with the resurrection. Then to leap forward in time to April the 6th, 1943, as time is layered between dark matter, to repeat Satan's greatest fear. I awaken once again, but this time a far greater weapon than the hapless Jews of 33 AD, this time armed with the flood of Christianity to strike against me. Then suddenly I vanish out of its sight. I am taken back to be told by Mary who I was, and that we are Essenes, in other words, non-cannibals. As said before, evil, we now know, came from Satana, India, where the word Satan originated. Chased out by a righteous army, the Jews' forefathers left behind a city that paled Sodom and Gomorrah into insignificance. Wherever they settled, they carried on every form of abomination they could imagine. In the lead up to World War II, Berlin had become the revived Sodom in Europe. Every abomination was available. Germany had to go. Hitler was a Christ-like figure, a brilliant orator, and like Jesus, had to be stopped. The Jews dominating banks and every form of evil in Berlin, headed for New York, and it was there the Jews declared war on Germany in March 24th, 1933. It was 7 weeks after Hitler was voted into power. The Germans during World War I had developed defence weaponry far in advance of the Allies. The submarine was a major innovation, but they warned the British people that if the ships were flying Allied flags, they were in danger of being sunk, as the ships were suspected of carrying weapons to England. The Germans were foolish, or rather naive in one respect, because they underestimated the evil of the Jews dominating England since 1649, when they were able to re-enter England after being kicked out in 1296 for child sacrifice, usury and deceit. From Amsterdam they arranged the beheading of Charles I. After an arrangement to supply money to the Parliament led by Oliver Cromwell. The Parliament had cut funding from the King, who had outsmarted Parliament by taxing cargo moving along the canals. Charles had run the kingdom for 11 years until arrested, tried and beheaded. January 30th, 1649. the story repeats itself. The Jews are always behind the world's problems. And so I was reborn at the height of World War II. They knew they had failed. Their attempt to kill my mother in 1938, confining her to hospital for 13 months after my half-sister was born, August the 18th, 1938. Then suddenly she recovered and walked out of St. Margaret's Women's Maternity Hospital. She'd been slowly poisoned, which caused her kidneys to shut down. She told me she just suddenly recovered. As she had survived a counter move, they told her never to have any more children. She, a Catholic, abstained from sexual relations, and this opened the gate for her lustful husband Reginald to service women in the neighbourhood, along with his brother Jack. He apparently took advantage, being at home for the 13 months. A golden opportunity, as all young men were heading off to war, he worked in the transport of wool to the docks, and being a very handsome man was propositioned continually. Finally, according to my half-brother Ronald, who overheard my mother lay down the law, Reg had to quit, or out he would be, one way out the door. Reg, a drug addict, opium and tobacco smoker. He also drank beer and whiskey, now was forced to appear to be faithful. Then some time after April 1943, much to his horror, Daphne announced she was pregnant and said she had no idea where the baby had come from. Reginald, at best, was an idiot, but he could count. He knew he was not the father. She did not bother to assure him, thinking he took her word, but no way. He thought his brother Jack was the father, and is why Reginald hated me until he died at the age of 99.
Never spoke to Jack again.
Right, there were only...
Once.
There were only...
Just a month.
Yes, how far away did Jack live?
2 kilometres.
Right.